What's good, y'all? I'm here to talk about the buffs and changes I've made to Gardevoir in this video. So if you're curious about Gallade and Iron Valiant, you can check out those videos after you watch this one. Don't click off yet because it'll mess up the watch time, but I do appreciate all of you returning viewers who are coming back, checking out all my videos. If you're new here, I highly recommend you read the description. Pause the video, read the description. It'll give you a lot of much needed context for how this ROM hack works, how I approach balancing, and just in general give you much necessary background information. So give that a look. When you're done with the video, you can check out my other videos. You can join my Discord. I've got live progress updates in there. It's a nice little community. You can join that up. And then you can check out the Google Sheet. It has all of the move guide, which is really, really important to understanding how the ROM hack, like how the Pokemon actually function within the context of the game. So give that all a look. And I will quickly flash Gallade and Iron Valiant on screen. They will have their own in-depth videos where I cover everything, but if you want to pause and give this a little look, that'll help understand what what they're competing with. And again, I'll explain all that in the video in a second. And here's Gallade. So pause the video if you want to look at that. And of course, you can always check all this out after the video on the Google Sheet itself. It'll always be the most up-to-date version as well because things do change even after I upload the videos. So if it's ever super major, I'll like make an announcement in my Discord or something, but usually it's just like levels of moves or small stat tweaks or something like that, or specific moves. If it's like anything like an ability change, I'll usually type that in my Discord, so you can check that out as well. Anyway, with all that being said, Gardevoir has got some really cool new tools now, and I will also discuss Reworked and Curlier a little bit more in depth here. However, they're also obviously relevant with Gallade and Iron Valiant. So you get Valiant at level 40. If I wanted to be super strict with my own rules for like level evolutions and stuff, it's a 3-stage pseudo technically. So like, 'cause it's a 600 BST final evolution of a 3-stage, right? So it has to evolve at 45. But I mean, Curlier wouldn't be unusable until level 45. It wouldn't at all. It's got fine stats for level like mid 40s, but just seals a little bit, like I feel like that's going to deter a lot of people from taking Valiant. So 5 level gap, very minor. If you look at the level cap, at most there's going to be like a couple boss fights. It's like 35, 36, 39, 3 boss fights, maybe 4 if there's an Emona fight. Yeah, like no, it's still no, it's still 3. So yeah, most of the time it's just 3 boss fights. Not a huge difference. I mean, it's a decent difference, of course, because Curlier it has a good stats now. It's also got its own little unique ability and competitive over Gardevoir because Serene Grace is useless for the most part until the end game. Technically, Extrasensory has a 60% flinch rate with Serene Grace, and you could do some T-Wave shenanigans, but that is not reliable at all and not how this game is balanced. The game is not balanced to be banking on hacks like that ever. It's all supposed to be consistent, and you have all these cool tools available to you to play around with, and yeah, that's not one of those. But yes, in theory, you could do some extrasensory shit if you want to. But the main Serene Grace options, if you click the link, it'll take you to the actual ability sheet, and here's a little text blurb explaining how Serene Grace works. And then, of course, I even have, Jesus, where is it? More info here. So, did I make Psychic 50% drop? Sometimes I forget. Oh my god, wait, it's going to be even more annoying. I got to type Psyshock to get the Psychic, yeah. I did make it a 50% drop. So Psychic Serene Grace is a guaranteed drop, which can be nice to get specific 2-hit KOs on like bulkier things. Of course, you've got Infinite Move Learner with tons of coverage, so that's not like the craziest thing in the world, but it's still nice. Once in a while it might matter, might be relevant. Eternal Beam is the same thing, 50% SPDF drop. Those are mostly for the AI, but I figured it's for the AI to abuse against you, if you're trying to switch around Psychic or Eternal Beam or all these other moves that have these additional effect chances, because tons of moves do have that chance now. But the only consistent important ones for the player are Moonblast, in this case. Obviously there are more, but in this specific case with Gardevoir, it's mostly just Moonblast and Revelation Dance. So Moonblast gives a guaranteed attack and special attack drop, so with Serene Grace, otherwise it's 50%, which, again, the player should be treating that as if it's 0 if you're planning, appropriately for like a Nuzlocke context. Disarming Voice is the same thing, but it's guaranteed, and it's 60 base power, so it's essentially like a much stronger Disarming Voice in that regard, which is really good. I mean, it's a tanky mon. Gardevoir has great SPDF, and also Trace is a really cool ability to switch to with infinite ability changing capabilities, but the main thing that Gardevoir has going for it in the end game compared to like, Quick Feet Gallade and Sharpness Gallade and Ruthless Valiant and Booster Valiant, all this crazy shit, is that Gardevoir has Serene Grace, Revelation Dance, and that's at level 50, which is really early. I was gonna make it later, but I figured they might, they have some allegations to beat in regards to being like the least good of the 3, I guess, but that's not really a thing here. But of course, I figured I would just give it to them a little bit earlier, so that way they can go for that Psychic type Revelation Dance and get a guaranteed special attack boost. And I do, obviously, Serene Grace fits Gardevoir very well in terms of their design and the overall vibe they have going on. Stuff like Magic Guard and Magic Bounce and all these other cool abilities that do make sense and that I would not mind giving to them are mid in the context of this ROM hack, or on other Psychic Fairy types, because you have to keep in mind there are several Psychic Fairy types, not in vanilla, but in this game that makes sense, like tons of Pokemon that are not Psychic Fairy that make sense to be, stuff like Mesprit and a couple others that I'm not. I mean, Cresselia, that's another obvious one, but there are more and more that I'm not listing right now. But just trust me when I say I have to think a lot about what ability slots to give to these Psychic Fairies, because they might, Hatterene, etc. They might all be kind of samey otherwise. So I do try to I do try very hard to differentiate Pokemon of the same type combo by giving them, unique abilities and moves and all that stuff. Most of the abilities are the main thing. Obviously the stats are different and all that stuff, but a lot of them are kind of in the middling, like in the 90 to 110 speed range and good Spadef and good special attack. So yeah. Not Cresselia and Mesprit. I mean, Mesprit sort of. But you'll see when we get there, of course. Just overall, I had to differentiate them. So none of the other Psychic Fairies have Pixelate or Trace or Serene Grace or anything like that. Ralts, early game, strong up until level 18. He's got good stats. Tanky enough. I mean, tanky on the special side. His def is fine with investment. Special attack is obviously good for early game. Speed is solid. Wimp out is really nice for a free pivot, especially because you don't get access to teleport TM until after the first badge. So, and not to mention teleport is minus priority. Meanwhile, Wimp out, so it takes a turn and you have to take a hit. Meanwhile, Wimp out gives you a free pivot, so that's an incredible ability. I think logically it fits them fine. A cute little baby Ralts. I see him being a little wimping out. And then Curlia gets competitive. I mostly didn't want to give... number one, I just like it when one ability slot changes each time they evolve. I think that's always a really cool like flavor thing. But also I think competitive... I mean, there will be other Pokemon with early game competitive, like super early game. But even at level 18 from Curlia, competitive is crazy because there are all types of moves in this game, especially early game moves that... Well, early game for the AI. The player can abuse them until the end of the game because they're great debuffing tools, but the AI is only going to be using those most of the time in the early game, like up until maybe the mid-20s. That's when they would start to stop using those types of moves because they have higher base power options, and the AI isn't exactly trying to debuff. That's not... I mean, they can, but it's not exactly the best way to... They don't really know how to take advantage of debuffing while the AI doesn't switch out of debuffing moves, which is why they're so good, right? That's why shit like Charm is incredible in-game, because you click Charm and they don't switch out. So anyway... speaking of Charm, there's Befriend, which is special Charm. But yeah, you got Disarming Voice, Mind Pulse, Harmonize, Chilling Water, and Dismal Cry, all of which are dropping attack and special attack. So, and then of course you've got that Serene Grace Moonblast, Serene Grace Psychic, Serene Grace Eternal Beam, and then most importantly that Serene Grace Revelation Dance at level 50, which again is super early. Being very generous with that. Scarfs, I will say Gardevoir is a hell of a Scarf Hog. You can still use it defensively. If you've got a plus speed nature too, you can outspeed more things, but without a plus speed nature, you're not really outspeeding too much. That's fast without Scarf, so you're gonna need to, hog your choice Scarf a lot. Or, actually no, I didn't get them agility, did I? Also, there was another one I was considering taking agility away from, and I forgot what it was, but it was in a recent recording. Fuck, what was that? Oh my god. Hopefully you don't click off the video. Give me a second, guys, I gotta figure that out. What was I trying to remove agility from? Do I have to look at my fucking upload history real quick? Yeah, that'll help me. Huh. Was it Mischievous and Miss? Yes, it was Mischievous Miss Magius. Alright, I'll ask real quick. Let me just type a message just so I don't... Agility. Mischief. Mostly Miss Magius, because I don't, the eerie spell stuff. Anyways, back on topic. Sorry about that. Serene Grace, Gardevoir, very good. Pixelate is obviously incredible. Hyper Voice is 114 base power. You've also got early game stuff like Pixelate Harmonize, which is the same thing as Disarming Voice, but it's 78 base power instead of 60, so that's a significant power difference. So that's number one, your strongest fairy move until you get stuff like Dazzling Gleam and Alluring Voice TM, after 2 badges, but it's also just a strong move, especially early game. So that's definitely some advantage to Pixelate. Trace is incredible in this game. I mean, I might have to change it in the future if it does seal mid, but I think there's a lot of really creative and cool things you can do with Trace in a ROM hack where every Pokemon has good abilities. I think it's an underrated ability, even in competitive, let alone in a ROM hack where you can guarantee what turn you're going to switch in and what ability you're going to steal. Like, you can plan out every single turn of that boss fight, right? So you can guarantee, okay, I'm going to steal Sheer Force, I'm going to steal whatever ability. There's all types of good abilities you can steal. So I think stealing with Trace is really cool. I think it's got a lot of utility with prep, so it rewards prep, which is why I like the ability as well, because it rewards people who think and play the game as intended, I guess. But Pixelate's obviously great just for that raw damage. You've got Serenade at level 18, which is 75 power, so with Pixelate boost. Oh, I just realized, by the way, I lied to you guys. Harmonize, I was thinking of Amplifier's boost, which is 1.3. Harmonize Pixelate is 72. I know that, so still strong, obviously. Serenade is 75 times 1.2, which is... let me try to... Is it 90? top of my head? Yeah, it's 90. Okay, so yeah, 90 base power Serenade. That's really strong. Fairy move is even stronger than Dazzling Gleam and Alluring Voice. Dazzling Gleam being 85, Alluring Voice being 80. So those are nice options until you get Moonblast. And it also makes the opponent drowsy, but I personally would not even. I mean, you can play around that. I just personally wouldn't even think about it like that because I don't like playing around inconsistent sleep turns. I think it's a really risky thing to do in a Nuzlocke, especially when you have so many better options to do. But you can if you want. Of course, they have typical, Wish, teleport stuff, Moonlight, Disable, Encore, all these nice utility moves that they can take advantage of. Debuffing options, all that good stuff, and they do have a really good Spit F stat. And of course, their Phys Def stat, while mid on paper, they have tons of good resistances as a Psychic Fairy, especially that 4 times fighting resist, so you'll be tanking stuff, physical fighting moves for days, despite having a low Phys Def stat. And again, with investment, EV investment can always patch that up as well, like a Scarf switch in, with HP or defense investment to take a hit. And let me ask. Gardevoir, because I also might give this agility, and because I know Gallade and Iron Valiant both get agility anyway, so I may as well just slap it on these guys too. Although I'm not a huge fan of agility Revelation Dance sleeping, I think it's still reasonable to give it to them because it still does take up a turn to click agility and stuff. So I don't know. I'll have to see how I feel and what other people say. But by other people, I just mean my 2 friends that I ask stuff about. But yeah, Meteor Beam is really good with would be better with agility, but it's just good in general if you want that strong nuke. It also gives you a free special attack boost. Yeah, the main thing for late game is Serene Grace, Pixelate, and Trace. Like all 3 of them have their own use cases still. Serene Grace is obviously the easiest one to use, but even just like Scarf, Trace, switch in, blow something up with Psycho Boost or Radiant Outburst, for example. Also, I gave them some really cool flavor moves. I should have said this earlier, but stuff like Doom Desire and Twilight Cannon I think is really cool because if you go to the Pokedex, I'm sure some of you guys know this already, the whole black hole shit, like they distort dimensions, they create small black holes. So I think Doom Desire, Twilight Cannon, and Subspace Tear are really cool moves that allude to that. There's other ones that I don't know, it just fits their kind of vibe of being like this kind of almost not ghostly, but like this kind of darker side to it. So Twilight Cannon is really cool, 140 base power. It's essentially dark type Draco Meteor, so that's really cool coverage on them. Most things like that are usually getting stab on it, but in this case they're not. And hey, if you got Terra Dark or some shit, then that goes pretty hard. So yeah, and then what else was I trying to say? Subspace Tear is essentially a special psychic type Wicked Blow that cannot be used twice in a row. Same with all the other Wicked Blow variants. So essentially, you cannot like spam Scarf Subspace Tear and get a bunch of kills. But I mean, you have Scarf Revelation Dance anyway. After the first hit, it's special attack boosting, and it just goes kind of crazy. So yeah, Scarf Revelation Dance is not super unique, but I think there's about maybe 6 or 7, 8 Serene Grace mons planned. I had a list. I can probably check it right now, honestly. Do I still have that list? Let me count how many on Serene Grace mons. Did I make a list of that? Oh, I guess I didn't. Whatever, I could easily find a count. It's probably like less than 10 though, if I had to guess. So, still relatively unique. Yeah, overall, that's pretty much it. It's pretty simple. Trace is super great. Pixelate. Oh, I didn't cover Pixelate Hyper Beam. So, Radiant Outburst and Psycho Boost are. Radiant Outburst is essentially Fairy type Psycho Boost, right? Which is 140 power, which is obviously very strong already. But Hyper Beam gives you that extra oomph to one-shot even more things that you want if you want a specific range to kill something, right? So Hyper Beam is 180 with Pixelate because it's a 20% boost off of 150 base power. So that's also incredibly powerful, much stronger than Radiant Outburst. With Stab that goes from 210 to fucking Jesus, 180 times 1.5, 60 to 40? That math doesn't feel right. Hold on. 180, 18, 9, 90 plus 90, yeah. 180 plus 90. 270, yeah, 270 base power as opposed to 210. So that's a significant power difference, of course. Not that, Radiant Outburst is bad or anything. But yeah, I really do like Trace. I think you can cook a lot with it. I think it's a really cool ability to abuse. Got tons of other good coverage, other good utility, 100% accurate Will-O-Wisp, teleport stuff, screens, and Encore, just debuffing moves, heal moves, Wish, even Trick Room. You could actually really pull off, what you could pull off is like Room Service, Trick Room Revelation Dance. Let me check how fast you are. That might be even cooler, and also much earlier in the game. I mean, agility TM. Never mind, I lied about that part. But anyway, 100. So if you get neutral speed nature, you obviously can't, minimize your speed IVs or guarantee a 9 to speed nature. But just with straight up this, 150, that's really slow. Which is good in Trick Room, obviously. Yeah, that's really good. Wait, this does not feel right. Oh, it's because it's timid. my god, it's slow as fuck. Yeah, you're underspeeding everything in the in-game context. Obviously, in like a VGC context, that's not very good. But this feels wrong. Am I messing something up here? No, -1 speed, 150 speed. Yeah, dude, you're underspeeding everything. So actually, fuck agility. I think room service trick room is way cooler. Fuck that. Fuck agility. This takes a lot. It also takes up your item slot, which is cool. I like that. That's cool as hell. So yeah, trick room service. That's really fun on anything like it's trick room, really. But yeah, especially with Serene Grace with that snowball potential. That's about it. So you get your, your accurate hypnosis and stuff, all that fun stuff, which you can learn more about. Magic Powder is a really nice early game move. It removes stab and it turns them into a psychic type. Excuse me, turns them into a psychic type. So you can use that in conjunction with like Dismal Cry or whatever. Especially if you got like Terra Dark or Terra Ghost, I think Magic Powder goes really hard. But in general, it's just nice for Titan fights, for example, to nullify them and then maybe switch into a darker Ghost type or Bug type or whatever. So Magic Powder has really cool implications, especially for earlier on. Simple Beam is a similar thing. It can kind of neuter totems. You could even Titan fights, excuse me. You could even use both versus a Titan. Fucking Simple Beam into Magic Powder, whatever it is. So because Simple Beam also allows you to debuff things more because it gives them simple, right? So the stat drops are -2. So you can use like Simple Beam into one of these moves and get them to -2. So that's all really fun. Also, you've got your simple, reliable old Pixie Dust Influx priority moves, which I don't know why it took me so long to mention that, but hopefully most of you know about that. Every single person who's watching 60 minutes in knew that. If you are watching 60 minutes in and you didn't know that, after this video, go open up the decks, man, and go look at that shit, because, yeah, no way. I highly doubt a single person who made it to the end is not knowing, like, the basics of the game. So, thanks for listening. If you did make it to the end, I really do appreciate you guys, all of you, every single one of you, and I'll be back for more coming up. Peace.